They told me I wasn't alone, that I was part of the family. And at 8 years old, what else was I supposed to believe? My parents died in a car crash. No illness, no slow decline, just headlights on a wet road and a phone call that came too late. I remember someone waking me up. I remember a suitcase I didn't pack. I remember sitting in the back seat of a car, not knowing where I was going or why nobody was looking me in the eye. I was sent to live with my dad's younger brother and his wife. They had their own lives. 2 kids. 1 boy, 2 years older. 1 girl, 1 year younger. Big house, clean kitchen, schedules on the fridge. They made room for me, but it was clear I was the extra. I got the guest room. My name wasn't on the wall. There were no baby pictures of me in the hallway, but they weren't mean. I got food, a new backpack, my own toothbrush. They told me to call them aunt and uncle, but I didn't call anyone anything for a while. I stayed quiet. I learned fast, don't be a problem. Be helpful. Be grateful. Their son started calling me bro when his friends were around. Their daughter let me sit with her while she watched cartoons. She once gave me a birthday card made out of notebook paper and a broken crayon. It said, "Happy birthday kinda brother." I kept it. We played Mario Kart. We fought over snacks. We went on family trips, and I smiled in photos. And after a while, I started to think, maybe this could be mine too. Grandpa helped. My dad's dad. He was in everyone's life, but with me, he was consistent. He showed up to school plays, sent extra money, just in case, took me for burgers and asked about things no one else remembered, like the toy dinosaur I used to carry around. He never made me feel like a guest. I think he saw something in me that the rest of them didn't, or maybe just didn't want to. So I worked hard. I got A's. I said thank you after every meal. I helped with chores without being asked. I was never late, never loud. I played the part so well, I almost believed it. I almost let myself forget that I was still the suitcase kid. That is, until graduation. Senior year. Cap and gown. I walked onto the field, scanning the rows. Other families brought posters, balloons, noisemakers. I was hoping for one smile, one wave. Nothing. Just chairs and strangers. After the ceremony, I checked my phone. One message. My aunt. Sorry we couldn't make it. Something came up. We're proud of you though. That was it. I went home. Reheated pizza. Sat in my cap alone. The next day, my cousin posted a picture. The whole family out to dinner. Celebrating. Laughing. I wasn't invited. I wasn't even mentioned. I looked at the screen for a while. Then I turned it off. Said nothing. Just packed. Left for college. College was everything and nothing like I imagined. I didn't care about parties or roommates or any of that. I was there to work. First to arrive to class, last to leave the library. I had 2 jobs. Ate cheap. Slept in hoodies. I didn't talk much, didn't post much, didn't go home for holidays. First semester, I only spoke to one person consistently, Grandpa. He called every Sunday, like clockwork. Asked real questions. Wanted to know how I was sleeping, what I was reading. Said he missed me. I believed him. Winter break came, and I finally caved. I booked a ticket. Just a week. Just enough time to say hi, pretend everything was okay, and get back to work. The house hadn't changed. Same photos on the wall. Same smell in the hallway. But the energy was off. Like I'd walked into a room where someone had just been talking about me. My cousin gave me a weird half hug. My sister barely looked up from her phone. That night at dinner, it started. College treating you well, huh? Full scholarship, right? Not true. Grandpa paid. But I didn't correct them. Must be nice, my cousin said, stuffing his face. Getting all that support. His dad changed the subject, but the tone was already set. The whole week was like that. Little digs. Jokes that weren't really jokes. Gold star kid. Mr. Perfect. Don't forget us little people. I smiled through it. Laughed when I had to. Said thank you when they passed the salt. But I counted every hour until I could leave. On the 4th day, I came back from a walk and found them in the living room watching old videos, family stuff, birthdays, barbecues. There was one of me, maybe 10 years old, singing badly at a 4th of July thing. They were laughing at it. I stood in the doorway. No one noticed. I went back to my room. That night I couldn't sleep. My chest felt like it was full of gravel. I stared at the ceiling and thought, if I left early, would anyone care? Probably not. I left 3 days ahead of schedule. Told them I had a group project. No one argued. No one offered to drive me to the airport. My birthday came 2 weeks later. I kept my phone on all day. Nothing. No messages. No calls. Just one voice, Grandpa's. He called after dinner. Said, "Happy birthday, kid." I tried to sound fine, but I guess I didn't fake it well enough. because he asked, "What's wrong?" And I asked him straight, "Did I do something? Did I screw up somehow?" There was a pause. Then he said, "No, you didn't do anything, but I need to tell you something now." And that's when he explained, "I changed my will last year, half to your father, half to his brother. But since your father's gone, that half is yours now. Your uncle's half goes to his family, your cousins, their mom. That's 4 people. You're just one. They don't think it's fair." I didn't say anything. He kept going. "You didn't ask for it. You didn't know. But now they do. And that's why it's cold over there. That's not your fault. That's theirs." I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because it shouldn't have mattered. They're supposed to love you either way." I nodded even though he couldn't see. "So what now?" I asked. "Now," he said, "you stop trying to earn a place that should have been given to you freely." And something cracked open in my chest. Because he was right. I'd spent years shrinking, smiling, giving thanks for scraps. And the moment I became less useful, less convenient, they iced me out. I hung up, stared at the wall. And for the first time in my life, I felt angry. Not loud angry. Not shout and break things angry. Just sharp, clean, silent clarity. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't overreacting. They made their choice. And now I was going to make mine. I wasn't checking their profiles much anymore. Muted most of them. But sometimes curiosity crept in late at night, when the room was too quiet. That's how I found out about her graduation. My sister. I was scrolling late at night and saw her story. Posts with glitter fonts and a stock cap and gown background. Graduating this Saturday. Ceremony at 3, reception after at the rec center. If you want to say congrats, pull up and then the address. No direct message. No tag. No, "Hey, hope you can come." Just a blanket post for the world. But I knew exactly who she didn't expect to show up. Still, I couldn't stop staring at it. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. And that made it worse. At first I planned to ignore it. Let it pass. Let them have their party, their fake perfect moment. But the more I sat with it, the more something in me shifted. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want to talk. I just wanted them to see me. Not the version they tolerated. Me. So I found out the location, some community center near their neighborhood. Took a bus. Showed up halfway through the reception. I didn't bring anything dramatic. Just an envelope with a card that said, "Congrats," and a $50 bill inside. I wore clean clothes. Combed my hair. Nothing flashy. Just there. I waited outside the main doors, listening to the DJ cycle through pop songs. Eventually I stepped in. Tables full of food. Plastic chairs. People laughing. Faces I knew, most of which barely acknowledged me when I passed. My cousin caught my eye. He looked confused. Then annoyed. I didn't go up to him. I waited by the edge of the room. Then she saw me. My sister. Her smile dropped fast. She made a beeline toward me in heels too high for grass. "Why are you here?" she hissed. "Just came to say congrats," I said calmly. "You weren't invited." "I know. You're not part of this." I figured. Then why show up? I looked at her and said, "To be decent. One of us should be." I handed her the card. She didn't open it. Just held it like it was dirty. "You need to leave," she said, louder now. Heads turned. Our uncle was watching. His eyes narrowed. I looked around. My aunt refused to meet my gaze. A few of the cousins pretended not to notice. It was quiet for a second too long. I nodded. "Okay." I turned and walked out. No drama. No shouting. Just silence behind me. As I stepped off the curb, I felt something strange. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't ashamed. I didn't even feel small. I felt clean. I felt done. They didn't want me there. That was fine. Because I was finally ready to stop showing up where I wasn't welcome. I didn't plan on going to the barbecue. It was one of those annual family things. Someone's birthday. Someone's new job. Someone's new baby. I lost track. But Grandpa asked if I'd swing by, just for an hour. He said he'd be there too. So I went. Clean shirt. Brought drinks. Kept my expectations low. The house was packed. Extended family, neighbors, people I hadn't seen in years. It was hot. Smelled like smoke and ketchup and charcoal. I stuck near the folding tables. Ate a little. Said hi to the people who actually said hi to me. The rest barely nodded. My uncle looked through me. My aunt gave me the kind of smile you give someone just before asking them to leave. My cousin raised his cup and said, "Look who finally decided to grace us with his presence." I gave a tight smile. Didn't know I needed an appointment. He laughed too loud and said, "Well, don't forget to thank Grandpa for making it possible. Must be nice having that kind of backing." A couple others chuckled. I didn't. I went back to my drink. 10 minutes later, Another cousin asked how college was. Before I could answer, she added, "Still milking that golden boy energy?" That one hit different. I put my plate down, said nothing, but I could feel it building. It was like they wanted me to crack, like they were trying to bait me into making a scene. I started to walk away when I heard one more line, this time from the sister. She was standing with her friends, plastic cup in hand, voice just loud enough. I mean, yeah, he showed up to my graduation, but he wasn't invited. It was weird. Her friend made a face, like stalker weird. She shrugged. I dunno, just pathetic. That was it. My jaw clenched. I turned, took one step, and then I felt a hand on my arm. A soft voice, "Not worth it." I looked over. I didn't know her. Brown hair in a braid, simple dress, calm eyes. "Come on," she said. "Let's get some air." I followed her off the patio, past the garage, down toward the side of the house where the music faded out and the mosquitoes hadn't figured out yet. She handed me a bottle of water. We stood in silence for a second. Then she said, "They've been doing it the whole time, haven't they?" I blinked. "What?" "Trying to get you to snap." In front of him. She nodded toward the backyard. "Your grandfather. They want you to make a scene so they can point and say, 'See? He's not stable. He doesn't deserve it.'" My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" "Maya," she said. "My dad works with your grandfather. Law firm." I stared at her. She didn't flinch. "I've been around. I see things. And I'm telling you right now, don't give them what they want. You already won. Just don't drop the trophy." I didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken like that to me. Like they saw it all and weren't afraid to say it out loud. I exhaled. "Thanks." She smiled. "Come on. I'll walk you to your car. You're better off gone." We passed the house again. I caught a glimpse of my family laughing. Someone threw a burger across the lawn. Someone else cheered. It all looked so normal. And I was so far outside it, I couldn't remember the last time I pretended to belong. I got in the car. Maya tapped the roof. "Keep your hands clean," she said. "They'll do the rest." Then she turned and walked back toward the noise. I sat there a while before starting the engine. I had 2 more days before I needed to head back, and for once I didn't want to spend them alone. But I sure as hell wasn't going back to them. So I texted my grandparents on my mom's side, Grandma and Grandpa Sam. They were old now, really old, late 80s, and mostly stayed inside, with my mom's sister helping out around the house since their health started to decline a few years back. And even though we were never as close as I was with second grandpa, they were always kind to me, always sent cards, checked in, never pushed, just steady, and I respected that. So I texted them, asked if I could stop by for a couple days, and they wrote back right away. "Of course, sweetheart. We'll be here." I drove over the next morning, 3 hours of quiet roads and open fields, and the second I stepped into their house, it was like time slowed down. The same crocheted doilies on the tables, the same faint smell of tea and old wood, Grandpa Sam, still in his recliner with his crossword puzzle, Grandma lighting up like I'd brought the sun with me, and no one asked why I came, no one asked what happened. They just hugged me and offered me soup and told me to sit wherever I wanted. I stayed 2 nights, helped with groceries, replaced a light bulb, sat through a rerun of some detective show where everyone knew who the killer was in the first 5 minutes. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe. They didn't need anything from me. They didn't ask me to explain or justify or prove myself. They just let me be. On the second morning, I told them I was stepping out for a few hours. I didn't say where. Just got in my car and drove to the cemetery. It wasn't far. I hadn't been there since I left for college. I parked, walked past rows of stone, until I found them. My parents' names side by side, smooth gray, clean. Someone had been here recently. There were fresh flowers. I stood still, long enough for my breath to slow. I didn't say anything at first. Didn't know how. Then I whispered, "I'm still figuring things out. But I'm okay. I'm trying." I crouched, touched the corner of the stone, said, "I miss you." I cry. No answers, just presence. I drove back without music. That night, when everyone had gone to bed and the house was dark except for the lamp in the guest room, I opened my suitcase, moved aside a sweatshirt, and pulled out an old photo album I hadn't touched in years. It was thick, fake leather cover, the kind you only keep out of habit. Inside, photos from every stage of my life. First pages, me and my parents, park benches, Halloween costumes, smiles that weren't fake. Then the shift, new family, my so-called home. Birthdays where I looked too grateful. School plays where I stood off to the side. Christmas photos in matching pajamas I never liked. Me always a little too neat, a little too ready, like I knew I was on borrowed time. I stopped at one picture, me and my brother, with our arms slung over each other's shoulders. I remembered that day. I'd bought him candy with my allowance. He told me I was trying too hard. I laughed like it didn't sting. I turned the page, my sister's birthday, me holding the cake while everyone else posed. I wasn't in the next frame. They'd cropped me out. I didn't even notice that before. I sat there with the album on my lap, the weight of every moment I tried to fit in pressing down like wet cement. And it hit me, not in a flash, not like thunder, just a slow, steady tide rising in my chest. I'm done. I'm done auditioning. I'm done twisting myself into something softer just to be allowed at the table. I closed the album, didn't slam it, just closed it, gentle, set it on the floor, turned off the lamp, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a problem. I felt like a person. I got back to my apartment just after sunset, unlocked the door, stepped inside, and for the first time in what felt like weeks, the silence wasn't hostile. It was mine, where I didn't have to prove or explain anything, just live, just exist without commentary. I dropped my bag by the couch, stood still in the hallway, breathing in the ordinary smells of detergent and dust, then made myself tea, real slow, not to calm down, but to remember what it felt like to be unbothered. Then I sat on the floor, leaned my head back against the wall, and didn't move for almost an hour, not because I was paralyzed by anything dramatic, but because I was processing the unfamiliar feeling of finally not owing anyone an emotional performance. The next morning I stripped my bed, did laundry, cleaned the kitchen, opened my laptop, and started building a routine from scratch. Not for distraction, not to numb myself, but to anchor myself in something that was mine. I added extra shifts at work, signed up for a language course I'd been putting off for 2 years, mapped out my semester with military precision, blocked out gym slots, grocery runs, office hours. I had time now, and more than that, I had peace. I didn't check socials for a few days, and honestly forgot I even had notifications on, until one night I was scrolling without thinking, and saw a post from a cousin I hadn't unfollowed yet. A group shot from the barbecue. Smiles all around, everyone in it except me. Then another swipe and there it was, a candid photo I didn't know existed, taken just as Maya pulled me away, my face stiff, hers calm and sure, like she knew exactly what she was doing. I paused, thumb frozen, and then I did the stupid thing. I opened the comments. First few were harmless, then the tone shifted. He's always been the dramatic one. Can't even show up without making it weird. Some people just don't know when they're not wanted. All vague enough to sound innocent, but every word loaded with aim, and I felt it. How fast a narrative can be built when the audience already wants to believe the worst version of you. I didn't reply, didn't like or unlike anything. I was about to close the app when one comment stopped me mid-scroll, short, precise, real. He didn't cuz anything. I stepped in because I saw how he was being talked to. You can't rewrite that part, and the name beside it. Maya, same calm voice as that day, no heat, no drama, just truth dropped like a brick in a glass room. It hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't for show. It wasn't defense, it was clarity. So I switched over to messages, sat with the open text box for a second, then typed, "Thank you for what you wrote under that photo. That meant more than you probably realize." I didn't expect a reply, maybe a thumbs up or nothing at all. But she answered 20 minutes later, "You don't owe anyone an apology for just existing. And you handled it better than I would have." I stared at that for a while, then wrote back, "I've been trying to handle things my whole life. Not sure if I'm good at it or just tired." She replied with a little, "Same," then added, "If you ever need to vent or just talk to someone who's not trying to win the argument, you know where to find me." And that was it. Nothing flirty, nothing heavy, just two people sitting on opposite sides of a bruise, quietly acknowledging it. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight alone. I kept moving, more hours at work, more time in the library, more space between who I was and who I was becoming, and every couple of days Maya and I would talk. Nothing heavy, just check-ins, sarcasm, book recs, random memes, but there was a current building under it, quiet, steady, and I didn't need it to be anything else, not yet. Then one night, close to midnight, my phone lit up with a call from a number I hadn't deleted but never expected to see again. My brother. I almost let it ring out, but something in me said pick up, so I did, and for 10 seconds neither of us said anything. Then I heard his voice, slurry, bitter, like someone trying to sound calm through a cracked mask. He started with, "You think you're something now, huh?" And from there it unraveled, slow and ugly. "We let you into our house, fed you, gave you a room, and this is how you repay us? Stealing half of everything?" I didn't answer, didn't interrupt, just let him spiral, because I needed to hear it, needed to know where the bottom was, and he found it, finally slurring, doesn't matter. When Grandpa's gone, we're coming for it all. You won't keep a damn thing. So don't get too comfortable, golden boy." And then he hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, not shaking, not angry, just grounded, like a piece of something heavy had clicked into place. The next morning, I texted Grandpa, "Can we talk?" And he replied instantly, "Come anytime." So I did, that afternoon. Quiet drive, open windows, same driveway I used to bike down as a kid. I knocked out of habit. He opened the door himself, already boiling water for tea. We sat in the living room. No distractions, and I told him everything. The call, the words, the threat. He didn't look surprised, just tired, like someone who's been waiting for the storm he knew was coming. He sipped his tea and said, "They don't see me. They see what I represent. Access, leverage, money." I stopped being a person to them the moment I stopped giving freely. I nodded. But he wasn't done. To them, I was always a vault. Now you are too. You're in the way. That's why they're angry. Not because you did something wrong, but because you exist between them and what they think is theirs. I asked him if he was worried, if I should be ready for a legal fight, and he waved it off gently. "They'll try, but it won't go anywhere. It's not about law. It's about resentment. Let them stew in it." And then he looked straight at me and said, "You didn't ask to be chosen. I chose you. Not because of pity, because I saw something I respected. You don't owe them answers. You don't owe them space." I nodded again, but this time slower, and something eased in my chest. I wasn't just being defended, I was being seen, not as someone fragile, not as someone needing protection, but as someone with weight, someone with worth. We didn't hug, we didn't cry. He just poured more tea, told me to take an extra muffin from the kitchen, said the freezer's full of soup if I want it, and as I left, I looked at the hallway, the same one I used to run through in socks, chasing nothing, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a visitor in someone else's life. As I turned to leave, Grandpa followed me to the door, then paused, hand on the frame, and said quietly, "I'm sorry. All of this whole mess, it's my fault. I promised your late grandmother that our sons would split everything evenly. I can't break that promise, no matter how much I want to." He looked at me like he was seeing both the boy I was and the man I'd become. "But listen to me, no matter what happens, your parents, your grandmother, and we've always loved you. That doesn't end because we're on earth or in heaven. We are always with you, always for you." Graduation came like a page finally turning. The auditorium was packed, parents, friends, phones held in the air, teachers fanning themselves in the front rows. I stood backstage, fingers curled around my note cards, not because I was nervous, but because part of me still couldn't believe I'd made it here without breaking. I heard my name called, stepped onto the stage, red sash across my chest, gown rustling slightly with every step. I looked out into the crowd, scanning fast, and then slowing. There, front row, center left, Grandpa in a gray blazer that didn't quite sit right on his shoulders, sitting tall, like this was the most important courtroom he'd ever been in. Next to him, Maya, hair pulled back, simple dress, hands folded in her lap. She looked up at me like she knew how far I'd come to get here. I smiled, not for the crowd, for them. The rest of the seats blurred together. No aunt, no uncle, no cousins, no siblings, not a single familiar face from that side of the map. And for the first time, I didn't feel like something was missing. I felt light, like there was finally space to breathe. When I stepped to the mic, I didn't try to sound smart. I didn't quote anyone famous. I talked about time, how it doesn't always move forward in clean lines, how sometimes growth feels like isolation before it feels like freedom, how the people who show up quietly, consistently, are worth more than 100 empty cheers. When I stepped down, the applause came like it was meant for someone else. I let it roll past me. I wasn't there for the noise. Outside, under the overhang, Grandpa was waiting. He handed me a small envelope. "Part of it's already taken care of," he said, nodding at the paper like it weighed more than it looked. "The rest, that comes when you open your own door. Build your own thing. You'll know when it's time." I looked at him, started to say thank you, but he shook his head before the words even came out. "You don't owe me gratitude," he said. "You're just the only one who didn't sell himself to feel like he belonged. That's all I ever wanted. Someone who wouldn't break their back just to be accepted. You didn't." Then, softer, like it had waited years to be said, "I'm sorry. This whole mess, it's my fault." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Your parents, your grandma, me, we've always loved you. Not because of blood, because of who you are. That doesn't change. Not here. Not up there. We're always with you." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just nodded. That night, I left the envelope on the counter. Took a long shower. let the water hit until my back started to ache. And when I sat down later, hoodie on, feet bare against the tile floor, I opened my phone and texted Maya. It felt right today. Like I didn't need to be chosen anymore. I just needed to choose myself. She wrote back 2 words, "You did." And for once, that was enough. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.